Good morning, everyone. Afternoon or evening, wherever you are on our planet. We're broadcasting out of North Carolina, USA, Eastern Time. It's 11 a.m. I'm Leslie Flowers, and I'm your show host for Mind Over Matter Mondays. And I see people are beginning to come into the room. I'm really excited about today's show and guest teacher, Steve Hudgins, as I always am with you wonderful guest teachers. Mind Over Matter Mondays has a vision of bringing in guest teachers to teach the basic principles of leadership, personal and professional development. And each week we have a different guest teacher with a different discipline. And if you're listening carefully, you will hear things you already have heard before, but from a different teacher, from a different perspective. And of course, you're much more aware when you're hearing it now than when you heard it the first time, because what we know is that repetition is the first law of learning. So our commitment is that as you come in every Monday at 11 a.m., or you watch the replay, and we thank you for that, that you're gathering your own awareness of your infinite potential. You see, these lessons and these studies are about going from confusion to being crystal clear about what we want and what there is to do, and then we'll take action. Without that clarity, though, we rarely will take any action. Good morning, Kimberly Lechnick is here. So good to see you. Not sure who On the Move is, but we got people calling in from YouTube. In the comments on the show is the YouTube link, just in case you have some problem viewing here on LinkedIn. Christy Williams is here. Hi, Christy. Thank you for always being a great support and letting everybody know about all of this. Oh, hi, Roland. Roland, oh, I'm so glad you're here. Roland is the one who's in the middle, on the other side of the world. I can't think of where it is right now, but it's on the other side of the world. So Leanna Stock is here also from Duluth, Minnesota. I'm so glad to see all of you. Roland in Thailand. Well, you've moved. You travel around, Roland, because you're usually not in Thailand. I love that. So yes, and so what happens is we learn these concepts, and oh, have we got good concepts for you today. Hey, Americo DaCosta, so happy to see you here. Bangkok, it's 10 p.m. Okay, so it's an 11-hour difference. I love that. And it's a 10 or 11 in China also. It's funny how we learn, right, the hours from around the world, because we do business and we do lives. Yes, Roland is on the move. And you can see the comments here on the right. Nicole Angai Galindo is here. And I'm so excited. She will be our guest teacher next week at 11 a.m. Eastern. And Nicole sponsors the Friday Think and Grow Rich show. And you'll notice on the bottom here that we have two wonderful sponsors for Mind Over Matter Mondays. We have Stanley Green, Power Thinking Corporation, and I'll show you a little bit about their new app. We also have the wonderful 2350 Network Effect, which is, or the 2350 Effect. This is an off LinkedIn platform, professional, personal, and leadership development program that nurtures business people regardless of what industry or channel you're in. And they hold 2 summits, telesummits each year about work-life balance. And so you'll have an opportunity to check in about that. Always looking for guest speakers in that event and also attendees. There's Sajid Kumar. I'm so glad that you're here. Sajid Kumar. Do this every Monday and oh, you're so sweet. Well, how do I do it? Well, I'm a kind of a creature of habit, Sajid Kumar. I have to tell you, I am a creature of habit. It helps keep me structured. You know what I mean? It just helps me stay structured. It's like, I think I would have been very good in the military right? I wasn't in the military, but thank you for asking. And oh, look, Melinda Fargus is here. Amazing travel agent. If you ever want someone to go to bat for you who's had over 30 years experience, I'm trying to move. I got the same problem. So guys, remember I've had trouble with this mouse if you've been here. So I bought a new mouse. Thank you, Sajid Kumar, for being here. And I bought a new mouse, and it has the little Bluetooth thing that you stick in the router or you stick in your laptop, right? You know what I'm talking about, okay? Right when I was ready to put it into the little slot, it flipped out of my hand against something metal, and I can't find it. So I'm still stuck with the same mouse, and I have not been able to find the little Bluetooth attachment. It's just, and we're right in the middle of Mercury retrograde. So that's what we are all about here. I'm really excited that you're here. Now, look, today we have someone extremely, let me just tell you just a little bit about Steve Hudgins. Now, I'm going to give you a little information. So I want you to ask questions. He is a therapist. And he has created an entire, hi Ashif, Haji from Toronto. So good to see you here. Oh, and Tanya Spivey is here. Hey, all of you, come on in. This is a wonderful place to begin your week and to learn and be nurtured. So I'm really excited about Dr. Steve, and here's why. The universe is very good to us, and I have been a line editor for over 30 years. I've always been in writing, publishing, documentation, large documents, big documents, small documents. That was my thing. I started as a secretary on a manual typewriter when I was 16 in high school. And I've always made a nice living doing that. Well, anyway, it just so happens that I was afforded the luxury or the opportunity to line edit Dr. Steve's book from last year. It was last year? It was 2025. It was 100,000 words. That was about 14 months ago. And he has a degrees in psychology. And I know a lot, but oh my goodness. So that was last year. Now he follows up with a big launch tomorrow for The Mask, the family mask. And it's all about learning how to, the way I understand it, because I just finished line editing that one, which was 65,000 words. These are big. And I've told him that I need an honorary psychology degree for getting through every word in both of those books. But it's fascinating. These are things I wish I had known. I understand them about myself now. The role that I played in my family, I would run away when it got too loud. And I can go back, or it got scary, or I was afraid. I always disappeared. I would run. Maybe because I didn't want to face the consequences, but I do that to this day. If it becomes too overwhelming, Sajid Kumar, I might not show up here one day. But that's the thing is, once you get clear on these family roles that we kind of morphed into without any choice, and it just sort of looks like it happened easily, it's when you understand how you operated then, which illuminates how you handle all your relationships. And it's access to getting to work with someone or to change your thinking. I swear, if you read these two books, you'll be able to figure your families out. So let me share a little bit about our wonderful Dr. Steve, and you probably know him, so be sure you connect with him on LinkedIn, and he's on other platforms. Now, he is the passionate advocate for the blended family. This is not just we got a divorce, we have kids, and then we married someone else. That is the first level, if you will. But you all know that there are blended families that have been married, divorced, and you could have a family with 6 kids and you've got different grandparents. I mean, it's a challenge. And these roles that he's going to explain, I don't do it very well, even though I do understand it, mostly about myself, why I have behaved this way. So you'll see how your brothers and sisters and mom and dad, etc. But he's dedicated to equip men, and I'm going to add women too, but to be better husbands and fathers. He really leans in toward helping men, but his books are filled with both men and women and couples. So he's a military veteran, a therapist, and an adjunct professor. And he brings a unique blend of discipline, leadership, clinical insight, and educational experience to his mission. And so I really am excited to bring him up on stage here. Come on up here, my friend. How are you, Dr. Steve?
Doing well. When you think about the family mask, it becomes so debatable within you that, do you show up as a people pleaser, or do you show up authentic, or do you put a family mask on when you come to a podcast like today?
Yeah. Well, if you're in the audience, they don't have to have any mask, right?
That is true.
Right.
The computers are mask.
Okay. That's fantastic. So where do you live right now? And tell us a little bit about your practice and what actually got you into going, because you did a lot of different kinds of work in different industries. What brought you? Tell us just a little bit about what industries you have served in, and then what was it that had you turn into the therapeutic industry, if you will, to help others?
Yeah, so I started off in doing ministry with kids and found out it wasn't my cup of tea, so college loans came due. And I went into the military. I went in telecommunications for 4 years active, and then moved to Tulsa to be a telecom engineer working for MCI at the time. I did 4 years reserve duty as a criminal investigations department, supporting the reserve unit with that. And so I've done a lot of management, writing skills, broadcasting, podcasting, all the above. And all this put me into a situation to where my unit was going to Bosnia. And I told him I'm going through a bad divorce. Due to 9/11, we all got laid off as well from MCI. There was 6,000 of us. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, I live about 15 miles east of Tulsa. And that was a real hardship for me, because when I look at the dynamics of the divorce situation, at the time, Oklahoma was give it to the female. And I'm like, no, I'm a father that we need both parents in the home, as long as it's mentally well-being of the child. And so when I contacted the governor at the time, I got laws changed to mandatory joint custody by just showing statistics. The governor signed it in 2001. I took the children's mother back to court, and through the psychological evaluation, I gained custody of my children. I was primary custodian. She had every other weekend. I tried to look at what's in the best interest of the child. But that's subjective information. So currently, I am working on House Bill 1802 with Majority Senator Leader here in Oklahoma, and another Senator, Christy Gillespie, in trying to change the language of our court system so that Oklahoma becomes the first trauma-informed court legal system that looks at what ways can we help children and families become better. So that is what got me into becoming a therapist, getting the master's degree. But doctorates, there is more to understanding blended, which I call mosaic families. And that's where we're at today.
I love it. Any questions you have for Dr. Steve? I'm so excited to get into this. Thank you for sharing your background. So as like for many of us, it was your own personal circumstance that lit you up, that was your definite purpose, that you had a burning desire that and isn't that a bit like all of us, in the sense that learning about ourselves. I mean, we all have gone through these things, but similar things, but I think being dedicated to your children, and I want to thank you for being so vulnerable here, because I wouldn't have asked you that. And so we all thank you for sharing that, and also for your service as we just passed the 250th anniversary, and as you know, of our country, and it being July 4th, we all have had parents and grandparents and great grandparents that have all stood for us and our freedom. And we must never forget this. So thank you so much for doing that and being that for us, Dr. Steve.
You know, I appreciate the support, Leslie. And when you think about looking into the mirror and we see our physical, but it's a challenge to really look at the inside of a person. And part of that piece of me to write the books that I'm writing is the face of the cancer for the second time. I was featured in a news article for the Oklahoma Post just over the weekend, and a phenomenal writer. I appreciate Greg Moyer in presenting that article. But when you think about cancer, it gives you an insight to who you are, because I had a 34% chance of living by 2021, and thank God it's gone. It's no longer here, nor will it come back, Leslie. But that's what really got me into looking at the family mask.
Got it. Got it. And that's very insightful. And I know that our audience, good morning, Steve, Stephen Eng, he's up in New York and works in the library system. I'm so glad that you're here, and we all are, because it now, with the clarity that I have, it's almost like this Mercury retrograde. It's silly. Some people think, oh, it's silly, right? But look, it's what I do with it, because just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not working. You know, for thousands of years, but just because we don't understand it yet. But I have to tell you, when anything can go wrong during the Mercury retrograde, we just blame it on Mercury retrograde, rather than having anxiety about, well, what did I do wrong? I must not have plugged something in, right? Oh, it's Mercury retrograde. And is that really authentic? No, it is a way, it's an automatic thought that I've planted so that I don't go down the road of blaming myself. I never needed to begin with, but it helps. It's a crutch, right? It's a crutch. So let's get into this, because the family the Mosaic family brings together, because remember, I line edited that one too. I was exhausted when oh my God. I think each one of those books should be a whole semester course. I think if you took this book that's coming out tomorrow, which is the family mask, and you actually took a test on it at the end, you'd have something. I don't know what it is, but you'd have something really good, right? And I think I just feel so honored to have been able to do this, because I've learned so much about myself. It's just been amazing. All right, let me see if I can fix this in such a way, the way I had this, the way I wanted to have it.
Yeah, in the chat, I also noticed that Kimberly, thank you for that question in compliment of supporting families. The House bill that I'm working on now is 1802. House Bill 1802 for Oklahoma is working on the language of equal access. As I share, best interest of the family is too subjective, and I'm changing the language to what is in the best emotional, physical, and mental well-being of that child, because it can be measured. And that's what we do in mental health, is measure these things.
Got it. Thank you for that, Dr. Steve. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. All right, we're in good shape here. Now, let's get into a very simple presentation today. And this is our presentation. It's time to be seen. And I love this picture of you, by the way. Is this a new professional, or?
It's a a professional with a better background than what I have. I have to look smart somehow, you know?
I
So
hear
why
you.
not do it with a picture?
All right. I'm just really having a hard time with this doggone thing here. Let me see if this is it. No, oh, I think I like this better. Okay, good. Oops. All right. Let me just adjust the screen. Okay, there we go. Save. Okay. All right. So let's begin here. Now, I'm going to make us a little bit smaller. I think I can do this so that you can tell us what is here. And these are the 4 points that we are going to cover today, just to give you an idea. It's the mask as an outside protection. And this one is the mask and the persona. The persona is how we learn to live inside the role. And this is the conversation Dr. Steve and I had, trying to understand the difference between persona, identity, right, beliefs, all that. And then we're going to look at what looks calm on the outside can be carrying pressure, fear, and hidden needs on the inside. And the peacemaker, which he's pointing out here, says, I keep everybody calm, but often hide self-silencing and fear of conflict. And then we're going to look at healing begins when awareness helps a person move from survival roles to honest, authentic living. So let's begin. Can everybody see this? I hope everybody can see this. Let's see if I can get this over here like this and make it bigger. So Dr. Steve, take it away with point number 1 and the image of the mask and the persona, please, sir.
So what I try to do is simplify it, right? We're like a house. And what is inside our house is we collect dust sometimes. We collect trinkets. We collect all kinds of things that we put on our house. And that's the way I look at ourselves, is that we're like this house. And the outside facade, whether it's brick, veneer, whatever you want to call it for siding, that is us. That's the mask. And when you think about the mask and this image that you're seeing, is that, people see the outside of us, but what they don't see is the whole person. And that's what I try to teach in couples therapy, is to look inside past what the reaction is of that person, because the mask is visible. And that's the protective part. What is that? It's that polished exterior that we wear that helps us to feel safe. So that mask hangs on the outside of the house because that's what the world sees first in us, first impressions, right? But what happens on the inside is the persona. It's different. It's just not what people see. It's what we've learned, what I've learned. In other words, it's my inner social self. That's how I need to act to be loved, accepted, or not rejected. And that's why inside of the house matters. When you think about these variety of different rooms that I put in here, what do they represent? The hidden emotional world, our thoughts, emotions, our values, fears, needs, longings. That's the part of a person. That's part of me that I may not get shown publicly. So that's what I look at. The difference between the two is that the mask protects the outside. It's the persona that learns how to survive on the inside role.
When we were talking about this, what was the structure of the house, the frame? Because we were talking about so what was the frame called?
When you think about the frame, it's basically our impact of what our parents taught us, how they built. It's what I call, when I think about identity, there is a belief system that fits underneath. Over here should be your boundaries that protect your identity, so that here, this belief system is more than just a belief in God. It's education. It's how you were brought up, transgenerational messaging, traditions. as social media. And 90% of this says what? You're not good enough.
Mm.
So identity is who I am. Persona is how I learn to show up. And the frame is that lens and explains why I developed that way.
Okay. Okay. That's all right. Excellent. Excellent. Let's see what Ashiv has to say. Masks, only mask adapted. We hold neutral paths to walk, natural paths to walk. That's Ashiv Haji. All right. So now let's move on to the next point, which is what looks calm on the outside can be carrying fear, pressure, and hidden needs on the inside. Now, should we bring in the graphic of the different types at this point? Should I have had that first where it shows all the different, like you've got the peacemaker, you've got this.
Yeah, let's roll with the roles.
Roles. Okay, so that is that. Let me see if I can. Oops. Hang on, guys. Is it this that you were going to talk about?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that one.
Okay. These are the 5 masks. Now, can you guys see this okay? So there are 5 masks, and one of them is the strong one, the peacemaker. Okay, you're going to have to read those for me.
Yeah, so what we'll start with when you think about as a child, what do we learn? And so I can only reference me as a person and what I experience. And in my book, I do talk a little bit about some of the family dynamics, that there was a lot of arguing, domestic issues within my own home between my mother and father. That so often that I had to learn how to be the peacemaker. And I talk about a time where my dad and his siblings were arguing over my grandmother's land. And I'm like, you're not even dead yet. And so she scoots us out, spouses out, sits down, and they talk about it. And later she thanks me for keeping the peace by, bringing her into the loop of what was happening. So if you look at the strong one, right, it says, I will carry it. Oftentimes I find kids who grow into this adult stuff. And so the mask is of endurance, right? The strong one learns how to hold a family together. They rarely admit pain. So on the outside, they look capable. Inside, they feel exhausted and seen and unable to ask for help. Why? Because if you have a substance abuse parent, you're put into the strong one position. And so for me, the peacemaker, I want to keep everybody calm. And as an adult, that raises into like the people pleasing, right? So the peacekeeper mask is a mask of emotional management. I've learned how to scan the room, know how to lower the tension. I used to avoid conflict and often sacrifice truth for temporary harmony. As my dad would say, quit beating around the bush. So I've learned that as an adult until I went through my own therapy, became a therapist, and so learned how to be different. So, on the outside of the peacemaker, they're gentle, agreeable, right? But what about the invisible one? What if this is the middle child in the family, right? I will stay small. This is the mask of disappearance because why? The invisible learns that being quiet, unnoticed, and low maintenance is often safer than being seen. So on the outside, they seem easy, or independent. But on the inside, they feel forgotten, lonely, and afraid their needs are too much. You ever heard the Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question now. It sounds like these roles come from the fear of not behaving a certain way, that it would upset the dynamics of the family. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, because the mask learns how to protect, right?
Okay.
that's what we're doing. That inner child has learned how to um, work and develop these. In other words, a child just doesn't wake up and decide, hey, I want to become the strong one or the performer or whatever, right? They just don't. But the child studies the room. Think about that. They're sponges. They absorb, they see, they learn. I call it imprinting or classical conditioning when you think about how these children learn how to work their attachment. So they learn what gets punished, what gets praised, what gets ignored, and what keeps that family from falling apart, so that over time, fear becomes the role becomes the mask, and the mask begins to feel like identity.
I got it. So so we've got the strong one who becomes exhausted. They're capable, but they endure. Is that
Right.
fair? Right. And then you've got the peacekeeper, which is the emotional manager. Right. And so doesn't that mask also shrink, much like the invisible one? Well, the next one is the disappearing one. So is there a distinction between the peacekeeper and the invisible one?
So the peacekeeper, you think about it, gets involved, right? They
Okay.
try to keep the peace. Mom and dad are fighting. Why are we
Mhm.
fighting? Keeping the peace would be, like I described about trying to help my dad, that I remember doing in school. The kids would have a hard time with the substitute teacher, and I didn't like all the conflict. And so I would try to help the class to be able to, hey, we don't need to be getting in trouble type thing. So the invisible one will shrink from, conflict. Oftentimes they'll disappear. The middle child was never seen. But then, to complete this in the last two real quick, the performer, I will become what people clap for. How many class clowns have we known? Right? Because so much pressure is put on that individual to perform. So on the outside, they look impressive, but on the inside, they wonder if they're loved for or cared for, or is it only for what they produced that they are cared for? And then finally, you've got the messenger. I will say what others fear to say. This is a mask of truth bearing. So the messenger, names what others avoid, exposes what's been hidden. So on the outside, they look bold and disruptive, and on the inside, they feel burdened, misunderstood, or punished for telling the truth. So, Leslie, the deeper point is that none of these masks begin as weaknesses. They begin as protection. And that wound when that role that once helped someone survive becomes the identity they cannot put down.
Got it. So for the audience, okay, so if you've recognized, which one are you? For those of you who are listening in, we've heard about, and these are the family roles that emerge or evolve without the child really knowing it, but they seem to find their sweet spot. They seem to find a role, right, to belong in this consortium of masks, if you will. So the strong one were you the strong one that you endured? Were you the peacekeeper that you were involved and you managed the emotional part of the family? Were you the invisible one? Did you back away rather than be part of it? Were you the performer? Were you the class clown? Or were you the messenger, the truth bearer? And I was the messenger. And I always got in trouble. I mean, I always saw things the way they were, right? That I was right and everybody else was wrong. That my point of view was correct. I don't feel that way anymore, of course. But the truth telling part, that's not fair, what I just said. The truth telling, it's almost like you can't help it. And do you think did I get this when I was a child? the truth telling, because truth telling got me a backhand across the face or in the ear, but I couldn't help but call it what it was. What is that? How can I be the truth teller? And I've been this way my whole life. But I knew that when I spoke the truth, the impact was going to be negative.
That's how we teach our children to lie. It's awful funny that we tell, don't hit your sister. But wait a minute, you just got in trouble, so I'm going to hit you. And so because of the reaction, it's an irony of all this that we tend to kind of teach these kids how to hit or how to lie due to our reaction. Leslie, may I address Sharon's question in the chat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me put it up here. You may address anything you like. What is her question? I got to find it.
Yeah. So how do these dynamics play out for the only child? And when you think about that, the only child often does not get one role.
That's
the only
what
child can
yes.
become the whole emotional department, right? Because in larger sibling systems, roles are sometimes distributed. One becomes the responsible and one becomes the rebel, right? I was the rebel, so to speak, in my family, while my sister was more the responsible one. And often at times I would hear from my parents, why can't you be more like your sister? And so that's where, this only role, the mask becomes more complicated. Because the only child may learn early, I'm not just a child in the family, I'm the audience, the witness, the emotional regulator, maybe the legacy, maybe the disappointment or the companion. That's too much weight for the one developing identity to carry. So if you take, for example, the peacemaker, if you're the only child, they become highly sensitive to parental moods, conflict, silence, or tension, right? So they try to keep everyone calm so the family doesn't fracture. So what about the child being the performer? Oftentimes we hear that, go out in the public, don't shame me in public, right? I grew up with that messaging that we're supposed to act right. But what if you become the performer as the only child? Maybe you feel like the family's report card, right? Their success becomes proof that the family is okay. Their failure feels like a family shame. So it's interesting. Go ahead.
Well, when we were talking, you and I, right, about this, I remember asking you, can a child have more than one mask role? And it occurred to me that in a blended family, or so in just a one family unit with, let's say, two children, they're going to have their role. And I remember asking you, can one child serve more than one role? And you've just answered that. Now, what happens when you go to blended and then you really go to Mosaic, where now you have children and adults coming into a family where all the different roles, everybody has different roles, and they're not going to be able to come in. Are they going to have to reevaluate which one of these they're called to be based on the dynamics? Talk to us a little, because this is where confusion, I would imagine the child is very confused about how to express what's going on and determine what they can do. This must be a long tell us about that.
It becomes complex. That's the reason why I developed the Mosaic family systems theory, to look at the emotion of the child and what they're dealing with, because you're placing this child in a very difficult situation. Because the clinical issue is that in a Mosaic family, it often activates what? Attachment fear. Think about that. Because now this child is wondering, do I still belong? Right? Step parents can also wonder, do I have a place here? Because former spouses can be replaced, threatened, or erased. And this new marriage becomes the emotional battlefield where every old wound has to be what? Recognized. That's why in the family systems theory, I talk about the grout is the boundary system. It holds those pieces together without trying to force them to become the same piece. So a blended family tries to make everyone fit, but a mosaic family learns how to honor every piece without letting one piece control the whole picture.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Let's go back. I'll tell you what, let's do something. I want to acknowledge our sponsors. Everybody take a breath. What did you decide? Those of you who are listening, have you come to any conclusion, regardless of whether you are in a solo family, a blended family, mosaic family, whatever it is? Let's see. Okay, so now here, Lay is saying that she vacillates between two roles, messenger and individual. Excuse me, invisible. You are always an individual. So what are you seeing here? Because we now have the strong one, we have the performer, and I was that sometimes too in school, right? The messenger, the truth teller, invisible, like you shrunk down to nothing, or the strong one. What are you seeing for yourself? Let's see what Kimberly said here. She's so good. So she's saying this conversation has me thinking of Birth Order, Dr. Lehman's book, The Birth Order book, Why You Are the Way You Are. Are you familiar with that book, Dr. Steve?
Yes.
Excellent.
It's been a while, but I would have to go back and refresh my memory. But, you know, the birth order does, I mean, you look at nature, everything has a birth order within the nature too. And you introduce a new calf into the fold, so to speak. There's a pecking order that goes along with it. And so the birthing order is the same as human beings. We have this difference of how things go. That's why often the baby gets to be, you know, more relaxed and disciplined than you do the firstborn that makes the mistakes all the time. So there's a lot that goes within the birth order.
Wow, that is so interesting. All right, let's have a little bit of a break here. I think we can do this. Okay, and let's take a look at Power Thinking Corporation, the app that brings cognitive behavioral points and lessons to you via your app. Power Thinking Corporation is run by CEO Stanley Green, and he was our first sponsor. Now you can get weekly updates on your app. Just go to your app store and look for Power Thinking Corp. There's a special price right now, and everything that you need would be available right there every day to keep you positive. And now let me bring this one. Also, our second sponsor is the 2350 Effect, which I mentioned to you, and they've got their wonderful one of two each year. This is the Professional Work-Life Balance Summit, October 9th and 10th. And this is a QR code for tickets under Creative Living Ideas. There is a small investment. It's 2 full days. It is an amazing, amazing event. And now I will introduce you to these wonderful folks.
Here.
And Dr. Tanya Farron here, co-founders of the 2350 Network.
The 2350 Network is a place where professionals can gather.
2350 Network members meet to discuss leadership, attend Think Tank Thursdays, participate in book club, socialize, and connect with other professionals.
Our virtual interactive campus, just like the one you see here, is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for members.
So join us at the 2350 Network. To become a member, visit 2350network.com.
We'll see you soon.
That is a phenomenal organization. And now what I want to do, I want to go back to our other points, because we covered this very well. I'm having a really good idea of what which one I am. Did you guys get that? Did you get who you are based on those 5 different kinds of masks? And then the next point is, okay, you were talking about the peacemaker, keeping everybody calm. Let's go to point number 4, because the timing is perfect for this. Healing begins when awareness, there's that clarity, right, helps a person move from survival roles, which we've all had, whether we knew it or not, to honest, authentic living. Tell us a little bit more about that, Dr. Steve. Extrapolate on that, and how the awareness arrives, what it is we do next, and how do we recognize when we're actually being honest and authentic in the way we live, please.
So what I try to mention in the book is that too often we talk about, oh, just remove the mask, just be authentic. But healing is not about ripping off that mask. It's like ripping off is like violent, simplistic, right? Dismissive of the mask that ever existed. So when you think about the mask, it wasn't created because someone was fake. It was created because why? That role helped them survive something emotionally unsafe, unstable, demanding, or painful. So healing begins when a person becomes aware that they're living from a survival role rather than their authentic self. So as a peacemaker, you need to learn that real peace cannot be built on self-abandonment. You got to show up. I think because when I hear, hey, stop being about beating around the bush, you can be tactful and straightforward without having to be blunt and hurtful. So healing is not that removal of the mask, right? Healing becomes the moment awareness moves from survival role. So again, the mask,
like you don't know another way to be. The survival role is this. That's how you see yourself. This is the only way you know, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Because the mask protects something what? Sacred. It helps the child to survive. But at some point, what protected us begins to confine us. It restricts. So the work is not to shame the mask, destroy the role, or pretend it never served a purpose. The work is to understand it. Honor what the mask protected, right? And then choose what it still gets to lead. So in other words, how do we begin this healing? How do we look? Oftentimes it becomes difficult. I'm working on another book called Splinters, hopefully be out by February of next year. And I remember this person who, he told me he had 3 roles. And he came to me with the first statement of, she called me stupid. And as I began to work with him, peeling the onion layers back, he realized that because he was in special education, what happens? He was made fun of because English was his second language. Then as he moved out of elementary, being bullied, being called stupid, etc., he goes into the middle school where he's got to protect himself. He has to fight until somebody puts him in his place. And he says, well, in high school, I just learned how to do what? I became the class clown.
Yeah.
And so healing begins when awareness, that's what I brought to him. I brought awareness, and it interrupts the automatic survival mode, because at the end of our session, he goes, well, she didn't call me stupid, did she? And I said, nope.
He did. He called himself stupid.
He called himself, right.
Yeah. So this is really important. Now, I figured out that I'm probably the messenger, but I'm not sure. I think that's my nature, but I don't know that was the family role. I think I want to say, okay, so let's say that you decide which one you are. Okay, you think that you're this way, and you become aware. Oh, I get it. Now you can go to therapy, right? And you can have someone walk through this with you. They could also buy your books, right? The first one, well, actually the second one, which is the Mosaic family. They could buy this book. What would be a couple of questions? Let's say everybody here in the audience is saying, I think I'm the peacemaker. I think I'm the strong one. What would be a simple logical question or two that we could ask ourselves to become more curious and to further develop our awareness of the impact of these roles?
That's a good question, because it's what mask do I need to remove? No, that's not the question, right? Because that question can make us feel ashamed, as if the role that protected us was a lie, right? And so a good question that I used in that book is, what did this mask once protect, and it's still leading me today?
Got it.
So awareness begins when a person stops judging the mask and starts listening to it, right? So first of all is, what role did I learn to play in my family? Was I the strong one, like we just talked about? What did I first learn that role? When did I first learn that role was necessary? What fear is underneath this role? This mask usually protects the fear. So is it rejection, conflict, abandonment? What does this mask help me avoid feeling? Sometimes as a strong one, does it avoid grief? Peacemaker avoids conflict. Where this role is helping me, where is it hurting me? That's where healing becomes honest. A mask that still has wisdom, but it should not be allowed to control the whole life.
Got it. Got it.
Right. So for you as the messenger, it's, am I speaking truth from wisdom, or from an old wound that fears no one will listen?
Oh, and of course, those of you who know my work, and you know that I work with the 6 basic fears, which boils it down more, but mostly the shame and judgment and criticism are the big one, right? Because we have said things wrong, we have been judged, we have been criticized. So that's a very big fear. But there's also 5 others for different kinds of conversations. But this one is looking good. I do these things so that I fit in, so that I belong, so that I don't stick out. Am I going in the right direction there, Dr. Steve?
Yeah, when you think healing, it begins when the mask is no longer mistaken for identity, right? And that's what I try to tell parents, in teaching kids. Well, you're being bad today. No, we're putting a label on them. They're not bad. They're just making hurtful choices. And I make a difference between helpful and hurtful choices. It's not about good choices, because how many times we made a good choice and it still wasn't a good choice. So that's why I use hurtful and helpful. And so it's about how do we present the language that we present to ourselves and to other people. Sure.
And this is the reframing. This is the law of polarity, the positive and the negative. What is it that you're going to instruct yourself to think? Because all of this requires that we think. No matter how good the therapist is, no matter how aware you think you are, you're going to have to think a little differently. And what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Steve, is that if it's helpful or hurtful is coming from the fear and the subconscious and that reaction. It's not really thinking. Helpful is really thinking. You're really thinking. But is hurtful our default in general, would you say?
When I think about hurtful, and this is how I explain it, helpful, are you helping your mom to make a helpful choice by going and cleaning up your room without being asked? Or are we, and that gives you the freedom to do what you're able to do within the confines which your parents allow? Or are you being hurtful by choosing to ignore what your parents asked you to do? And that hurts you and your parent, because now we have to restrict the freedom. And that's hurtful, because we all want to be free to do what we like to do. But I would like to be able to think about hurtful and helpful in that way. So to wrap that up, Leslie,
yes,
every
please.
mask tells a story. It tells us what hurt, what had to be hidden, what had to be carried, and what had to be performed. But I want to give everybody hope. The mask is not the final chapter. The final chapter begins when you, the person beneath, it is finally allowed to live. So it's you being aware and to be alive and not and to work on people pleasing. I learned how to stop being a people pleaser and start being able to have healthy boundaries for myself and not take what people say as criticism.
Sorry. I apologize. Oh, God. Okay. So let's do the call to action, because I want to talk just a little bit about this. And then I want you to give us one thought that we take with us, because this may be new for people. And what I want you to know for sure is that both of the books, and particularly this second one. So the first one was A Journey, which I haven't read yet. I apologize. And this was last year, Piece by Piece. And this is about the Mosaic family, going from single family to blended to multi-blendings, right? This one is identifying these roles, and look how complex it got. And let me just say that what I love about this book, The Family Mask, tomorrow is the book launch. There'll be a special price. You can use the QR code to attend the launch. It'll take you right to the LinkedIn event, right? And this is sponsored by our Friday sponsor, Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing House. But The Family Mask is the one that I just finished line editing, and everything is really well organized. Right now, I can tell you what Dr. Steve's horoscope sign is, and it's perfect for organization. He is a Virgo, and actually, Virgo is my ideal partner. Did you know that? I've never met a Virgo man before. But anyway, so he's very meticulous, very careful. The book is so simple to understand, even when it gets into the complexity. So please come tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Eastern live. The link is also there. If you look up Nicole's name, you'll also find it. And it's also on Dr. Steve's page. Also, we're so excited about this. So I think you've got everything. Let me just see here. We got a couple of comments here. I do like the way you always draw a resonant example of what you share. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Stephen Eng says, hi, Stephen. I pay attention to how the judgment or criticism is delivered. A big part of helpful comes from this. Would you concur with that?
Oh, for sure. You know, and one thing I want to drop in really quick, because I know time is running out. Tomorrow, it's going to go on sale for 99 cents. These proceeds will help veterans. So I want to give back to my brothers and sisters because I've been blessed by God in what he's done for my life. You know, I'm blessed as being the #1 best-selling author from Piece by Piece. Help me to do this again, but mainly help the veterans, because these proceeds that the first 24 hours will be going to veterans. So thank you for that plug-in.
Oh, this is amazing. And I apologize for forgetting that. Yes. And I will tell you my experience with Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing House is I don't know that I've ever seen them do a price like this. So take advantage of it. You will love it, and you'll love the formatting. I mean, and you'll love the line editing, but you'll understand everything that's going on. I think it's one of the most important books based on the divorce rate, which is 50% of first marriages and 75% of second and third marriages, that the biggest problem we have is blending families. And Dr. Steve, I really think that you are on to something. I'm quite amazed. And so I want to thank you so much for being here today with us, and also for donating the proceeds tomorrow to veterans. I'm not a veteran, but I did fly troops into and out of Vietnam. So I kind of lean toward veterans, right? And look, Yvette is here. Hi, Yvette.
So now I can call
in
you
the
my wing woman.
You can call me. I can be your wing.
Instead of
woman.
wingman, you're my wing woman.
And I actually had to go into a rocket attack in Vietnam, and run off the plane to the bunker. And oh my gosh, I've written about that. So look, Yvette Leal is here. And yes, the forward is by Andy Regal. All right. So the last thing that you would leave us with to consider, because there's a fair amount of information here. For me, it was the clarity of understanding, why do I always run away? Why do I always run away when things get tough? I just, wash my hands and leave. And it's helped me a lot. So what is the last thing that you would share with us to take with us into our week?
When you think about the thing to consider is, don't turn the mask into another label. It's easy for us to label ourselves, right? Not what's wrong with me, but what happened around me that taught me to survive this way. How did I get rid of this part of me? But how do I honor what protected me? It's not about why can I not just be normal? It's what part of my identity has been buried beneath fear, right? And so the family mask is not about exposing people. It's just about understanding them. It is about recognizing that many of the roles we call personality were actually survival strategies. So one thing that I want you to remember this week, the mask told us how we survived. It does not get to decide who we become.
Say that again.
The mask tells us how we survived, but it does not get to decide who we become.
Oh, that's amazing. I am so grateful to you. I know we all are excited for your book launch tomorrow and all your hard work. You're giving back to the veterans, and for being here, and also for being a stand for blended families, because I think we don't always think about what it's going to be like for all these children that come together with a new love, right? And I love the fact that the family actually, with the Mosaic, the piece by piece, I envision families looking at this together and using the different roles and masks to help educate one another. Oh, well, no, I do this a lot, right? You do that. I do that too. Well, which one are we based on this? I see that as maybe a family workbook. I don't know. With that, Dr. Steve, thank you so much. I will certainly be there at the event. And please be sure you follow and connect with Dr. Steve. And so I'll move you back into the studio and I'll be right there. Thank you. All right, let's take a look here. What we got. I probably should get this from the current slide. Next week, we have a former co-host, absolutely the publisher and owner of Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing Company, and Nicole Angai Galindo will be our guest teacher. Be sure that you tune in. And this Friday, it's a deep dive into the vault. We're focusing in on recalibrating Q3 and Q4 goals. So we're going to dig back into goal setting so we can all get clear on what will we repeat the same goal we had, as Harvey told us last Friday? Sometimes it takes more than 12 weeks, a quarter to do it. Or do you have a new one already? And that's what we're going to do this Friday. So with that, my friends, I will play our outro. Have a phenomenal week, and reach out if you need me. Thank you again, Dr. Steve, and all of you for being here.